Hello.
Hello, Errol.
Are you back home?
I am.
How was your
I
flight
am.
back?
It was long. For some reason, it was long. It was only 12
Oh,
hours, but it was long.
it felt longer.
A lot of turbulence. A lot of turbulence.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good. Which airline do you fly?
United.
Which one? United?
United. But they have a direct flight.
Yeah. I'm sure you protest there quite a bit. You have signs against the government, like
In
Tiananmen
China,
Square. Remember, you don't do that? Yeah, you
Tiananmen
don't do
Square
that?
never Tiananmen Square never happened. You know that. Never happened.
Of
We
course.
were there
I
we were
made
there a
it up.
couple of
It's
years ago. We were there a couple of years ago, and our
yeah.
guide said before we hit Tiananmen Square, says nothing ever happened here. Don't even think about it. You know,
Well, he was
he said,
serious. He was serious about it.
yeah. So don't talk about anything.
Wow. I'm sure they're
Yeah,
listening in. Yeah, wow.
they for sure are. But even in Hong Kong, a lot of things are so censored on the internet.
Wow.
You can't get CNN. You can't get
Oh,
nothing. Terrible.
can you get Ernie's Daf Yomi?
Of course,
Okay,
it's a
good. It's
big
not
hit. It's a big
not
hit.
yet.
Okay, we're on Lamed Aleph 31. We're discussing the various Amiroim that talk about the halacha of Rav Shimon Shazuri. And Rav Papa says it's a sheda. A sheda is like a carriage. It's not. Hasheda be'shama amrim nimdenis mibifnim. If you have a wooden kli that holds 40 saw of liquid or 60 saw of solid, and you can't move it when it's full of the item, then it's not makabel tuma. Now, so the question is, how do you measure? So Beis Shammai says you measure from the inside. Ubeis Hillel omrim mibachutz. And he says Beis Hillel measures the outer dimensions. And elu ve'elu she'en oivei raglayim v'oivei halivzvizi nimdad. They don't measure the legs or the rim of the top of the carriage. They are measured, but nimdad. What is between them, for example, the space between the legs of the carriage are not measured. Shimon Shazuri Omer, if the legs of the carriage are greater than one tefach, then they're not measured. But if they're less than a tefach, then you do measure to get the total volume, including the space between the legs. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak Omer ayayin. That Rav Shimon, when we say halacha Rav Shimon Shazuri, it's regarding the din of wine. It's not. Rav Meir Omer Shemen Tchila Lo'olam. When something tummy touches liquid, it becomes a rishon latuma.
Sorry, how far are we down in the daf there?
Maybe 3 lines, 4 lines.
3 lines, not three
Rav
blocks.
Nachman by Yitzchak Omer ayayin. He said, Rav Meir Omer Shemen Tchila Lo'olam. Shemen always becomes a rishon. The Chachamim Omrim Afa Dvash, even honey. And Rav Shimon Shazuri Omer Afa Yain, even wine. Does that mean Mechlal the Tanakama Sover Yain Lo? I mean, does the Tanakama not hold that wine goes to be a Rishon? So Aim Rav Shimon Shazuri Omer Yain, not Afa Yain. And only wine is considered enough of a mashke that it gets elevated to a Rishon, but Shemen and Dvash are not. Tanya. Rav Shimon Shazuri. Pamachas nisarif li tevel b'chulin. I had tevel, which is produce that Trumas and Mises have not been taken, and it got mixed with kosher chulin. Ubasi v'shati Rav Tarfon. V'armeli lech kach l'cha min hashuk v'aser alav. Go buy dmai from an Amoretz. Min Torah, we assume that they gave Trumas and Meiser. So it's only rabbinic that they're not. And Tevel and Ksava Daraisa Beruba Botel. That Tevel is nullified by Chulin 2-1, just as long as you have the majority. So since the Tevel fell into Chulin, it's Botel. It's only Osir Midrabana. And Rav Ame'aretz Ma'asrine. Majority of Ame'aretz give Truma. It's only Midrabana that we required. So it's 2 Rabbanon, Havalei Keter Min Aptur Laptur. It's really Potter Min Adoraisa on something that's Potter, and that'll work. So why didn't Rav Tarfon Lech Kach Min Ha'oivei Kochavim go buy grain from a goy and use that to give Meiser on the Chulin? Because Ksavar Ein Kinin Lovei Kochavim Be'eretz Yisrael Avkiyam Yad Meiser. A goy doesn't have the power when he buys from a Jew in Eretz Yisrael to take off the chiyuv of Meiser from that produce. Minat Torah, it's still required. And therefore it's not minat ptur al aptur. Havalei minat chiyuv al aptur. So that's why he didn't give him that advice. Other people learn this sugya differently. Iked Amri, Amr Lei, that Rav Tarfon said to Shimon Shazuri, that he actually told him, Lech kach min avid kochavim. Go buy from a goy and use that produce to separate trumas for the mixture, because he owed kinyan lovet kochav meretz Yisrael avkiyam yad meiser. That when you buy from a goy, it does, or the kinyan of a goy, when he buys it from you, takes it away from meiser, and therefore midrabanan we require it, but not minat Torah. So therefore havalei minat Torah laptur. Why don't you buy Dmai? Ksavra ein Rav Ame'aretz Ma'asrim. He holds most Amei Aretz do not give Meiser. So it would be a suffix midoraisa. It's not midrabanan ptur laptur. It's chiyuv al aptur. Shalach Rav Yema bar Shammai Rav Papa. Hada Amar Ravin bar Chanina Amar Ulam Rav Chanina Halach Rav Shimon Shazuri. This is what they meant when they said Halach Rav Shimon Shazuri. Whenever they say that the halacha is like Rav Shimon Shazuri, the halacha is like him. Now, is it af ben Yisrael le'tevel b'chulin? Is it even in that case? Amar le'in, yes. Amar Ravashi, Amar li Marzutra kashi b'Rav Chanina misura. Rav Chanina had a problem with this. Pshita. Why would we think that it didn't include that statement? Because maybe they qualified the statement of whenever it paskins like Rav Shimon Shazuri, it's halacha. That's only b'mishnasenu. But rather, we understand it as kol makom sheshana kamen, no matter where, even in a baraisa, even in a statement, the halacha is like Rav Shimon Shazuri. Rav Zira Rav Chanan Amarav. Back to the halachas of writing a Sefer Torah. Kra haba b'shnei shitin. From the top of the margin, the parchment tears until 2 lines of the ksav. So the din is yispor, you can sew it up, and it would be kosher. But if the tear extends b'shalosh al yispor, you got to replace the entire column. Amar Rav Zudi Ravashi. That which we said that if the tear extends into the 3rd line, lo amar nelabatikta. That's with an old parchment, because then the tear looks more ugly. Aval chadata, if it's new, less linba, then there would be no problem to sew it up. We're not talking about it has to be in chronology old. And rather, it depends on how the parchment was treated. They used to use gallnut juice because it had high tannic acid, and they treated hides and parchments with that. So if it was treated, it's considered old. And If it's not, it's considered new. It made it look like sort of an older Sefer Torah. And when you sew it up, you have to use the sinews of that the Halach Moshe Messina says you have to use that. Aval begrodin lo, but the thread you're not allowed to use that. It has to be made from an animal. Boy Rav Yehuda bar Avva. Bein daf ledaf. Let's say the tear doesn't go into the writing, but it's in the columns, between the columns. Or it's between a line, bein shita l'shita mine. Teku. So the Rambam says you can sew these tears. Amar Zir Marav Chanan Amarav. Mezuzah shekos v'shtayim shtayim. You wrote a mezuzah, only 2 words on each line, ksheva. Iboilu shtayim v'sholosh v'achos ma'u. You wrote 2 words on one line, 3 words on the next line, 1 word on the line. And what's the din? Of course, it's like a poem, like the Oz Yashir, which is also some are long, some are short. However, Meisvei, Asa Kashira Shira Kamosa Psula. That if you wrote it like a poem, then it's possible. Kitani b'Sefer Torah. That's a Sefer Torah, but a mezuzah would be okay. If you take something that should be written in regular prose and you write it as a poem, so by a Sefer Torah would puzzle it, but by a mezuzah it's okay. Itmar nami. Amrav Echad Amrav Yoichnan. Varmila Ruchad Rav Yo Amrav Yoichnan. Mezuzah shasor shtayim v'sholosh v'achas. You made a mezuzah 2, then 3, then 1. Ksheira. You can't make it like a tent, wide at the bottom, narrow on the top. And not like a tail, which is wide on top, narrow on the bottom. And on Rav Chizda, ala aretz b'shita achrona. Al ha'aretz has to be in the last line of the mezuzah. Ikad yamei b'sof shita, not only has to be the last line, has to be at the end of the last line. V'ikad yamei b'tchila shita, it could be even at the beginning. Man damar b'sof shita, the one who learns it has to be at the end of the line. It's kigvoa shamayim al ha'aretz. It says, "Laman yirbu yemechem v'mevnechem al adama, asher nishba Hashem lavosichem l'sislem kimer shemayim al haaretz." If the words al haaretz were the only words on the last line, and the word Hashemayim would be the sort of the end of the line of that, so the words would appear, those over the earth would appear underneath the word Shemayim. Which shows the distances between Shemayim and V'aretz. Mandar b'tchila shita, the one that says that you should write it at the beginning, so it should be very far from the word Shemayim. Ki heichet b'rach v'Shemayim V'aretz. Aram chelbo chazin lein Ravuna de karich lo me'echad klape Shema. When he would roll the scroll in the mezuzah, he rolled it from echad towards the Shema. Because the first pasuk of the mezuzah is Shema Yisrael. So you would roll it in the direction from echad at the end of Shema, means from left to right. Meisvei. Oh, the ose parshioseh shesuma. When you the different parshios were written as stumos. That means without space between the words. But the Gemara is going to ask a kasha. Meisvei. Amar Rav Shimon ben Elazar. He would write mezuzah on the parchment called duchsustas. an outer layer, the outer hide is a gvil, and you can split it. The outer layer is called klaf. And the duchsustus is the inner layer. And we'll see there's a debate whether you can write a Sefer Torah with duchsustus, but Reb Meir used the duchsustus for the mezuzah. We'll continue this tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow 3:00.
Okay.
Tomorrow 3:00, everybody.
We can, and you don't want to make it Shabbos. What time is Shabbos tomorrow? I think it's later.
5:15, 5:20.
20, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fine. 3:00 is great.
Okay, we'll see you
Nice.
guys.
Okay, bye.